This is the story of Liese Hodd, and the one word that turned her murder into an eternal question. Let's go back to the village, to the rain, to the morning of November 17th, 1964. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone. She ran a small dry goods store on the village's main street. Her husband had passed years before. She lived alone above the shop, described by neighbors as friendly but private, hardworking, unassuming. The day before her murder was a Monday, an ordinary Monday. Witnesses saw Liese stocking shelves, chatting with customers about the coming winter. She closed shop at 6 p.m. as usual. A neighbor saw her light on in her apartment upstairs around 8 p.m. She was seen drawing her curtains. That was the last confirmed sighting of Liese Hodd alive. The next morning, Tuesday, the rain was persistent. A customer, Frau Huber, arrived at the shop at 9:05 a.m. The door was locked. This was unusual. Liese was punctual. Frau Huber peered through the glass. The shop was dark, but something was wrong. Not just the emptiness, the order. It was too orderly, and there was a smell, a faint metallic smell that the damp air couldn't mask. She went to find the local policeman. Officer Franz Weber arrived shortly after. He found the back door to the shop ajar. He stepped inside. The shop was neat. Nothing was overturned, no drawers rifled through, but that smell was stronger here. It led him through the shop to the narrow staircase at the back that led to Liese Hodd's private apartment. The stairs were dark. As he climbed, the smell became overwhelming. The door at the top was slightly open. What Officer Weber saw in that small sitting room would define the rest of his life, and the next 60 years of speculation in the village of Berg. Liese Hodd was on the floor. She had been attacked with a ferocity that was shocking in its intimacy. The scene was one of extreme violence. And yet, the room was not in disarray. A small table was upright. A doily was perfectly centered. It was as if the violence had been contained, focused solely on her. But that's not what made Officer Weber stumble back. That's not what made him radio his station with a trembling voice. On the wall, just above Liese Hodd's body, written in what was later confirmed to be her own blood, was a single word. A word that meant nothing to him. A word that would become the entire case file. Sea-killing. C-K-I-L-L-I-N-G. Sea-killing. Was it a name? A place? A terrible misspelling? A message? A sick joke? This one word, this bizarre, nonsensical string of letters, became the ghost in the machine. It overshadowed everything. The murder of a gentle widow was no longer just a murder. It was the sea-killing murder. The investigation began with the word. It had to. In a town of 700 people, there were no secrets except this one. Who could have done this? And why leave a word that no one understood? First, the police considered robbery. But Liese's small cash box in the shop was untouched. Her few pieces of jewelry were still in her bedroom. Nothing of value was missing. Then they considered a crime of passion. But Liese Hodd had no known romantic entanglements. She was respected, but not the subject of gossip. She had no known enemies. She was, in every way, an unlikely target. The violence of the act suggested rage, personal rage. But the bizarre, calculated act of writing the word suggested something else, something theatrical, something communicative. So they investigated the word. Killing. Was it a surname? Police combed through regional records. No known killing families. Was it a code? Cryptographers were consulted. Was it a brand? A reference to something? Nothing. Perhaps it was a mistake, a dying attempt by Liese to write something else. Could it be killing with a misplaced C? But why would she write killing in her own blood? It didn't fit. Maybe the killer wrote it. But why? To taunt police? To claim credit with a signature no one could decipher? Or a deliberate attempt to create an insane mystery and derail the investigation from something simpler, Something closer to home? The police did what police do in small towns. They looked at everyone. The quiet farmer who came in every Tuesday, the traveling salesman who had passed through the week before, Liese's few distant relatives. They were all questioned, alibis checked, every lead grounded to dust against the sheer, impenetrable weirdness of that word on the wall. Rumors began to fester in Berg, whispers that Liese had a secret life, that she was a spy. This was the Cold War, after all, that the word was a code name. Others whispered of the occult, of ancient curses. Killing sounded like something from an old Germanic folktale. The word itself became a creature, a phantom that had visited violence upon them. As months turned into a year, the active investigation slowed. The case file, with the photograph of that bloody word at its center, grew cold. Officer Weber retired, the case forever unresolved on his conscience. The people of Berg tried to move on, but you don't move on from something like that. You just learn to live with the shadow. Liese Hodd's shop was boarded up. Then it became a bakery, then a tourist trinket store. Each new owner reported no strange feelings, no history, but they all knew. The customers knew. The shadow of the word was baked into the very bricks. Then in 1987, over 2 decades later, a spark. A journalist from a Vienna newspaper doing a series on Austria's unsolved mysteries came to Berg. He interviewed the now older residents. He stood in the room where it happened, now a storage room for postcards and souvenirs. He published a long article, reopening the wound for the village, but also bringing new, national attention to the case. With the article came letters from amateur sleuths, linguists, cranks. One suggested killing was an archaic term for a type of church key, pointing to a religious motive. Another claimed it was an anagram. Killing could be rearranged to Killing G or Ill King C. Nonsense. But one letter from a retired English teacher in Salzburg offered a chillingly simple theory. He proposed it wasn't a word at all. It was two. Perhaps the C was not a letter, but a symbol, a crescent moon. Or perhaps it was separated, C and killing. Could C be an initial? The first letter of the killer's first or last name? C followed by Killing. Charles Killing? Carl Killing? Was it a boast? C? Killing. This theory sent police briefly re-examining anyone with a C initial who had been loosely connected to the case. But it was a dead end. There was no Charles or Carl in the frame. The case went dormant again. The internet age began. And with the internet, the ghost of C killing found a new global home. Online forums dedicated to true crime and unsolved mysteries discovered the case. The word C killing was now typed thousands of times by people across the world, speculating in the glow of their screens. Armchair detectives dissected every scanned document from the journalist's article. The motive was locked in a mind that has either taken the secret to the grave or is still walking among us, an old man now, carrying the weight of that November rain. The profilers suggest it was likely not a coherent message. It was a product of that same fractured mind at the moment of extreme psychological rupture. A nonsense word that felt significant only to the killer. A scream translated into letters. It was never meant for the police to solve. It was a private artifact of a public crime. So the murder of Liese Hodd remains unsolved. Not for lack of trying, but because the only key that could unlock it was a key of irrationality. You cannot solve a puzzle where the central piece is madness. Berg is still quiet, still beautiful. Tourists come for the mountain air and the charming streets. They buy souvenirs from the shop that was once Liese Hodd's. They walk past the doorway, oblivious to the history that stains that spot. But if you stop and you listen past the chatter and the church bells, you might hear the echo of the one thing that remains. Not a ghost, not a curse, but a question. A single, silent, screaming question, spelled in 8 letters. C. killing. What did it mean? We will probably never know. And in that not knowing lies the true horror of the case. The horror of a mystery with no answer. The horror of a word that outlived a woman and now floats forever in the void between meaning and murder.